What's up YouTube? It's FJ again, and you can see my new streaming setup slash recording setup. Hopefully you guys like it. I wanted to make a video today because winter's here, snow's fallen. I'm sure you guys are still looking forward to snowboard. Despite everything that's going on this year, who knows what the lockdown measures are going to be like on the resorts, but I know you guys are probably looking at buying some new gear, or maybe you're buying some used gear. So today I wanted to talk about some boots, or at least the lacing systems on boots. I've tried pretty much them all. There's only three really. It's traditional lacing, there's BOA, and then there's speed lacing systems. There's various types of speed lacing systems depending on which brand you want to go towards, but they're all pretty much function the same way. So the first one is traditional lacing. I would show you a boot with traditional lacing, but I actually ended up getting rid of all of my traditional lacing boots, and I'll explain why. These were one of the first boots I got, and you can see here based on the design, it's got the hooks on the top half because you have to be able to remove those laces pretty quickly to get most of your leg out, and then you've got the boots lacing on the bottom. Similar, I used to have the DC Park boot. I like this because it was a funky two colorway. Again, hooks up top and then traditional kind of lacing loops on the bottom. And I had some Burton ones as well. These were traditional laces. And these were my favorite for sure by far. The Nike Zoom Force 1. They looked sweet. I had all white and you got like the gum bottoms, Zoom Air for the cushioning system, and then you've got that classic Air Force 1 look. Love this boot. But the reason why I stopped using traditional lacing boots is because you generally have to use your fingers without gloves when you're putting these on. And yeah, you could do them inside your car if you want, or you can do them indoors if you have the luxury or opportunity to do that. But in general, if you're outdoors and you're trying to adjust your laces or tie your boots, traditional lacing makes it very hard to do if you have gloves on, if you have mitts on, so you have to take them off. And I have sensitive cuticles, and over time, you know, they dry up in the cold weather and then they just get shredded. I don't know what it was. This strap too didn't really help. This was purely cosmetic. It doesn't really do anything in terms of support, just to add to the Air Force 1 type of look. But really the hooks provided all the tension you needed for the lacing. But every time I had to work around this whole thing with my fingers in the cold, I actually ended up bleeding sometimes because of my weak cuticles. So, I mean, that's a personal thing for me. Some people live by the traditional lacing system, and I do want to say, guys, that they provide the best experience in terms of comfort, the way it distributes tension across the entire foot, as well as the best in terms of performance. The Zoom Force 1 was one of, if not the most comfortable boot I've ever worn, and the cushioning system was premium with the Zoom Air. And having such evenly distributed tension around your foot because of the lacing system, it performed very well. A lot of people love traditional lacing systems. You choose how tight you want the bottom, and as you work your way up, you choose how tight you want the top. Great for customization. If you tie a solid bow and knot at the top, once you tie it that first time, you don't have to retighten them for the rest of the day. Now, you give up convenience for that. It's a hassle to loosen the laces and then pull out these laces on the bottom half each time. It's a lot of work. And some people would sacrifice a little bit of performance and comfort for convenience. It's a lot of work to get in and out of a laced boot. So the other end of the extreme would be a BOA type of boot. This is a DC Scout BOA. I still choose to keep it specifically for those days that I want ultimate convenience. It's just a day where I'm just gonna do some casual runs on the resort. I'll probably take out the DC Scout because it's an easy in and out. You know, with any BOA system, guys, I'm sure you've seen a ton of videos, but you just tighten it that way, and then when you pull the knob out, very quick to loosen, and then you can get in and out of that system pretty quickly. I've seen newer boots, which add a little bit more customization in terms of fitting and tightening, add a second BOA unit on the side, so that this top BOA handles the top half of the boot, and then the side BOA would handle the front bottom part of the boot. You allow more cables to come across the front of the boot, which spreads out those tension zones a lot better. That's what apparently the primary complaint of BOA is. It produces like tight zones, tension on certain areas of the boot, and apparently people are feeling that through this stiff tongue I don't really find it an issue for me. Your mileage may vary, but I do find that because there is fewer zones to enclose your foot, the hug and the fit isn't nearly as good as traditional lacing. So I do have a bit of heel lift when I'm using this boot. This is definitely the right size, but for some reason, if I'm going on my toe edge, I still feel a little bit of heel lift inside this boot. Could just be specifically this boot. There's probably a lot higher priced models with a lot more tooling, a lot more molding inside their insoles and their inside liner that make that hug a lot better, but I try to keep my costs low. Another thing you have to be aware of with the BOA system is anything that requires friction to hold or lock down the laces is going to loosen over time with use. Even when I click on this lock and then tighten the knob to get the nice snug fit of the boot, the tension of this cable is constantly pulling back on that friction of that lock. So as you use this boot throughout the day, it's going to loosen. It's not the same as when you use a traditional lacing system where you have a knot that actually prevents that lace from moving. This utilizes friction to hold down that cable. So throughout the day, you will have to go back and tighten the boot. But with the added convenience of BOA, you just have to reach down, keep your glove on, give it a couple cranks throughout the day, and you're good to go. So there's the BOA, guys. Ultimate convenience, but the concern is you get tight zones throughout the lacing system. It's up to you. Do you want to emphasize more on performance and comfort for a long day of, let's say, competitive riding? Then yes, I would highly recommend getting something that definitely fits a lot more comfortable and snug. Your foot doesn't move around. Top performance if you're gonna go out and ride like that. But if it's a super cold day and you know you don't have the option of being able to put on your boots or take off your boots inside or in your car, convenience-wise, if you need something that's quick in and out, BOA is the way to go. I keep one pair specifically for that. And then, of course, guys, you get the hybrid system. This one is a variation of speed lacing. So this is Nitro's TLS system, twin lacing system. So you've got one draw for the top half of the boot, and then you've got a second draw for the bottom half of the boot. And you can see here, guys, a lot more spread than your BOA. You can see the spread of the cabling system in these two boots. And with traditional lacing, this almost looks like traditional lacing. You know, as with most things that try to market and try to get a balance of both performance and convenience, number one analogy would be all-season tires. So they try to market all-season tires as the best of both worlds. You just got to get this one tire for the entire year and you're good to go. But it's really not getting the best of both worlds. It's actually just compromising both sides, so you kind of get like this quote-unquote happy medium or a compromised medium. In the winter, if you're using all-season tires out in the winter, you're not going to be as safe and it's not going to be as grippy on the snow as if you were to have dedicated winter tires. In the summer, if you're still using the all-season tires, they're still not going to be as grippy and safe on, let's say, rain or even just dry pavement as a dedicated summer tire. That's my analogy with the speed lacing system. They try to say that this solves all issues. I mean, it does a pretty good job in terms of getting a compromised solution for convenience and functionality. And of course, the higher you go up in terms of price, you can get a really optimized performance boot with BOA now. You can get an optimized performance boot with speed lacing system now. But again, if you want to keep your costs low, always trying to look for the deals, you want to have some options. So with this guy, you yank up from the front, and once you tighten this boot, you tuck the little tabs into these little pockets, and this one's got another pocket on the other side, and then, you know, it's all tight. You cover it up with your pant, you're good to go. Feels more like a lacing system boot because of the spread of laces or cables. The added convenience of using a speed lacing system is rather than having to adjust each lace on each loop as you move up the boot, it just utilizes two quick draws. And how speed lacing systems resemble BOA is it utilizes friction to lock the cables in place. However, because the cables are always pulling back throughout the day, that friction isn't going to be enough to keep it perfectly in place. So in my experience, I still had to tighten the laces throughout the day as I wore the boot. Unfortunately, it's not quite as convenient as BOA because you can't just reach down, reach for the knob and give it a couple cranks. You have to reach down, lift up the pant leg, take out the tabs from the pockets, give it a couple tugs, let the mechanism catch again to bite down on the tension, put the tabs back into the pockets, Put the pant leg back down to cover the loose cables, and then you're good to go. You have better tension distribution and better comfort and performance than a standard BOA, but again, it's not quite as convenient as pure BOA because when you have more cables and lacing across the foot, there's more resistance when trying to get in and out of the boot. You also have a more convenient way of tightening and loosening your cables than a traditional lacing system. But unfortunately, the locking mechanism is based on friction rather than a solid knot when you're tying laces, so you will have to tighten the boot throughout the day if you're using a speed lacing system, at least in my experience. So that's what I mean that it's not quite the best of both worlds, but a compromised medium. So yeah guys, if you have any questions specifically about lacing versus BOA or speed lacing systems, my recommendation, if you find really good deals on boots, buy multiple boots. You can buy the most expensive boot, premium leather, synthetic materials that will endure a lot of the wear and tear of snowboarding. Another concern I have is when you have traditional laces, especially when you're using, let's say, like a Zoom Force 1, those laces are pretty exposed. And you know how when you go on a ski lift and you want to rest your snowboard across the top of your off boot? So you got to be careful about cutting up that lace with your board edge. That happens, it's been a thing, and I've shredded some laces that way too. So you just got to be careful, keep it on the top part of the boot there so you avoid that from happening. What I was saying guys is if you can find good deals on boots, get multiple boots. You know, I have a DC Scout and I ended up with 3 different Nitro TLS. When you get a good deal on, let's say, a top-end boot that's like previous seasons or even a couple seasons before that's on clearance or store closing sale, which is the case of what I got, if you can get like a boot for $50 or less, buy multiple boots, because no matter how premium those materials are, it's gonna get wet, worn out. The more you put it in your bindings, you're gonna be walking out adverse weather, snow, ice, dirt, whatever it is that you're walking on, it's gonna wear out the boot. No matter how much money you're gonna spend, the materials aren't gonna last forever. If you get a really cheap deal on boots, buy multiple boots and then rotate them out so that they can last longer. DC Scout BOA, I got this for 50 bucks at a Sport Check closing sale. And I think originally these were like 200 bucks or something like that, maybe 250. This Nitro Select TLS, these originally were like $350 to $400, maybe $450, and I got them for 90 bucks. Again, a store closing sale. I went back to that same store closing. These are Nitro Team TLS. They're not quite as premium level as the Select, which is their like pro model at the time, but same twin lacing systems, and guys, these were $25 each, so I bought 2. I basically bought whatever sizes they had left at that price. If they had more, I would have bought them, because even if you just go 3 times a year, go 10 times a year, 30 days a year, 50 days a year, those crazy people who go lots and do long trips, it really does make a difference to have multiple boots on a long trip. You're gonna soak one boot for one day of full riding. You wanna let that dry out for the day, and if you wanna ride the next day, you can use a different boot. Let the materials rest a little bit so you don't wear them out when they're soaked. I've gone through a lot of boots. Like as I've shown you guys, I used to have the Fuel, ended up selling them because traditional lacing. DC Park sold them, traditional lacing. Burton sold them, and these Zoom Force 1 sold them because my fingers couldn't take it. But yeah, let me know in the comments below guys, what do you think? What boots have you found? Any good deals that you guys want to share with everyone else on YouTube here? If you like this video, please click like, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when my next video comes out. Follow me on my social media, Instagram. I'm still on Twitch, trying to get on this whole TikTok thing. Peace out. Have a great season. Hopefully I will see you guys out there. If I don't see you for another week, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Later guys.